Welcome to the Grounded Guidance Podcast, where we explore the power of living aligned and from your intuition each day. I'm your host, Karen Williams. Every day you receive hundreds of intuitive messages guiding and empowering you to live a life in alignment. Are you listening? Through lived experiences, ongoing self-reflection, and enriching stories, I am joined by extraordinary people and thought leaders in their field who have embraced the magic of following their intuition and are sharing their light with the world. Trust that these conversations will meet you right where you are, and consider this your nudge from the universe to listen. Join us. Okay, welcome everybody, and welcome Kelsey to the Grounded Guidance Podcast and community.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Yes, today's conversation is with Kelsey Ammon, holistic business owner, intuitive healer, and astrologer. She's on a mission to help you heal from within. Kelsey's been on a self-healing and personal development path for many years and is grateful to share her wisdom with you so you can live in alignment with your authentic self. She hosts a podcast called We Are Cosmic Nature, a beautiful mesh of cosmic wisdom, astrological transits, and purposeful alignment. I am so excited to welcome you to this beautiful community. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So let's just jump right in. Your business tagline, conscious business, cosmic wisdom, holistic living. It's such a magnetic pull for so many life forces that people experience. And then you beautifully weave together all these things as if it's like this magic soup of curiosity, clarity, consciousness. How did your life path lead you here?
Thank you so much. And I appreciate that observation of yours, because sometimes I'm not even understanding how it's all coming together. I think something specific to this year was that, and maybe this is Saturn and Pisces, just the teacher Saturn moving through Pisces, just sort of allowing creativity to flow and sort of surrendering to what is. But I just decided, I'm going to show up and share what lights me up the most. And it seems to be working in that I do get a lot of positive feedback from people about what I share and teach and offer. How my life led me here is really, I suppose, a bit of an awakening moment, I think, in 2017, 2018, when I realized that I had passions that I wasn't fulfilling. And I was just sort of working a lot, working hard, working multiple jobs, and feeling like there was more that I could be doing and more that I could be giving the world. So I enrolled in holistic health coaching, and that led me down a path to exploring not just nutrition, but hydration and the importance of hydration for our bodies and our physical well-being. From there, I found a community of people who were striving for not just living a healthy lifestyle, but also experiencing wealth and abundance. And I started, a personal development journey, I suppose, spiritual awakening, whatever you want to call it. And it was just like one thing led to the other, like one person led me to this person, led me to this book and this podcast. And I've just really I started recognizing that as I followed these breadcrumbs of things that were interesting, that were intriguing, that made me feel like I wanted to lean in, it led me to something more and something more. And eventually just, opportunities to learn new skills, leverage those skills and begin offering them, and kind of put me into the entrepreneurial space. And that's, I guess, a bit more of an overview. There's a lot of details to it all, but really just following the things that lit me up the most in the moment, and focusing on myself first led me to that sort of tagline, I guess.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
that is, self-awareness is really the root of living, that conscious life. And when you live from the moments that feel aligned and guide you, it just flows. It's just
Mhm.
this beautiful flow. And it's easy to get caught up in what's not working, but it's really easy to flow with what is.
Mm.
And I
Mhm.
love that you have followed that path, that has aligned you with what feels right to you. So bravo,
Mhm.
bravo.
Thank you. Yeah, and I like what you said too about, we can get caught up in what's not working, but how very Virgo new moon. I mean, we're recording this just after the new moon in Virgo,
Yes.
but it's like, why don't we look at the solution? Like, why not look for the solution? Be solution oriented, because that's going to move you forward.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Virgo new moon, that was yesterday.
Mhm.
Um, new beginnings, new energy. How's it showing up for you? Um, yeah, how's the Virgo new moon showing up for you?
Mm. Um, Yeah, I've been kind of sitting with it. It's in my 12th house, which really is the area of your chart that's like what's hidden, what's under the surface. It's
Mm.
very ethereal. So it's kind of hard to grasp, though I can see at least how Virgo I can be in terms of perfectionism and just maybe doing a little too much, and my body's communicating to me that maybe we can just rest, surrender, chill. And yeah, so I've got a bit of a polarity there to play with, but it definitely showed me a little bit of yeah, how I might have been overdoing.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Let's dive into astrology a little bit. So, I can remember astrology being really one of the first tools that I felt so connected with when I was a kid. It just felt so much bigger than me. But the funny thing about it is these were like newspaper horoscopes. These were not. I tried to find stuff to dig deep, and I did as I got older. But the connection to it really felt like a lifeboat to me, like a real cosmic understanding of the sum of my parts. And I think that's why I liked it so much, and I still do. And I've really dug deep into the sun, the moon, my rising sign, all these different planetary influences. Um, you are a gifted teacher in this art and science. Um, and I know you offer readings. What can somebody expect to get when they book a reading with you? And like, what's your path? What's your process?
Mhm. And thank you. I'm with you on those. I remember those newspaper horoscopes. I think that's where I first saw it too. And my mom also had a book called The Book of Birthdays, and I used
Oh,
to
yeah.
read it. I thought it was so interesting. So
Was
yeah,
that the book? Okay, let me stop you just for a second. Was that the
yeah.
book that was like really thick? I think I remember that as
Yeah, it was
well.
like kind of blue and gold or something on the
Yes.
front. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, it's funny. Astrology finds us. I feel. Um,
Absolutely.
and yeah, it definitely found me as a kid. And then again, sort of like 2014, 2015, 2016. I can't remember. I was like early 20s, and I bought an astrology book and sort of studied it. And then again in 2020, I revisited it. So I was sort of refreshing myself, and I kind of just taught myself, I guess, and
Wow.
started offering readings because I could see messages coming through for me. So I would like, offer it to my cousin and to a friend. They were like, whoa, like, yeah, yes, that's right. So essentially what I find when people book a session with me, it's the same common theme from when I first started, which is like, I feel like you know me. I feel seen.
Mm,
I feel heard. I feel understood. I feel, yeah, validated. Often people
wow.
feel like they are, the way they are, and it's supposed to be that way. Like there's nothing wrong with them. Like I think many of us, yeah, we're seeking answers. Why is my life like this? Or what, we want to understand a deeper we want to understand deeper what's happening in our lives, or why things manifest in our life the way it does. And I find that every single time when someone books a session with me, they're just receiving like answers, and the answer is that you are on the right path. Like, don't, there's nothing that you need to change about who you are. And essentially in a session, what it, I guess, tangibly looks like is I often like to just go through the whole chart. Sometimes people already know their chart quite a bit. So I like to ask, is there anything that you specifically want to know? Any area of your life that maybe you're feeling sticky about, or you just want a little bit more intel, because we can dive into it, because astrology really does encompass so many themes in our life. Like, there's so many answers there that we can dive into. So then we'll go through that specific piece, and then I also love to dive into what's happening right now. Like, where are the planets right now, and how is that maybe affecting you? And then we look forward, what's coming up. And I feel like I have a lot of tools in my toolkit, so I like to just share, any resources that could help someone through that thing. I'm by no means have the answers to everything, but if there's solutions that come up, and as I'm sort of speaking, then we'll talk about that. And often too, with these cycles, these planetary cycles, we can refer back to the last time maybe a similar cycle happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I find people often have answers to questions from the past as well, which serve them now. And yeah, I mean, they're typically 45 minutes to an hour, but we always sort of land on a place of peace and understanding. And then I just like to give people time to sort of integrate all the information. And then if they have any follow-up questions, I'm happy to provide more to it. But yeah, we just have a conversation. I like to keep things really relaxed. And just, ultimately I want people to just feel comfortable and, feel like they've left with a bit of clarity around something.
Yeah, I heard you say a couple of things. One of the things I think I've loved about astrology through the years is identifying the patterns. And I think as human beings, we are so pattern driven. We want to identify, oh, this happened in this year, and why was that important? And now look back this many years and what happened in that year. And that's where I feel like the tool and the art and the science of astrology really opens up this kind of world that many of us are not, we don't know. And it's so fascinating, and it can go so deep and so rich. I have to tell you, I tried to learn all the nuts and bolts of astrology, and it is a real gift to know it and just feel fluid with it. It was very hard for my brain to know all of the parts and pieces. I can know it and understand it from how it affects my life and the planetary influences, but it is a real gift to help other people understand their chart and how it applies to their life. So bravo.
Thank you. Thank
yeah,
you.
that's really amazing. So one of the questions that really I love to contemplate when I'm in the weeds of life is, am I really living my life, consciously living my life, or am I simply just existing through it? And I think all of us can reframe that question in really any way and ask that question daily. Life gets really hard, and I think it's easy to reflect that some days and seasons and months we do just exist. But what are we doing to actually consciously live through our life? So just kind of to maybe help the listener understand what unconscious living might be. So feeling extremely busy all the time, managing many demands, traveling constantly, being reactive to everything rather than being guided, talking to fill silence, not thinking before speaking, Listening, or so when we're guided, what does it look like? Listening to the flow of life, listening to the messages that come up, feeling aligned with how you feel and how you show up in the world. So, how do you show up for yourself consciously instead of unconsciously existing? Kind of a big question.
No, thank you. I love it, and I resonate with what you shared about what living unconsciously can feel like. And for me personally, I do spend quite a bit of time alone.
Mm,
I find there's an Aquarius moon, Scorpio sun there. I find solitude to be uh, really helpful to, I guess, literally like hear my own thoughts or receive.
mm,
Um, Especially, I'm sure many of your listeners can resonate with being maybe empathic or sensitive and picking
yeah.
up on other people's energy. So I find, being around others, it's still a challenge for me to discern, what's mine and what's others. So I find just being able to have some time alone at some point in your day is uh, what I find key to coming back to center
Mm,
and knowing, what's home base? Like, what does that
mm,
feel like physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically? What is home base? And it wasn't until I don't think I got quote unquote good at this until 2020 when we were, most of the world was uh, requested, asked, whatever, to
right.
be, at home and slowing down and not out and about so much,
Mm,
um, and that showed me where I was hustling and bustling before, because all of a sudden I wasn't, hustling and bustling. So that was a really helpful time to sort of hone in on that. And yeah, like you said, being able to listen to the flow of life, I think requires a bit of spaciousness. So before immediately reacting to a situation, if you're able to take a breath before, you're just that immediate reaction comes out, whether it's verbal or something that you do, just taking a pause, like really
mm,
giving yourself space, quietness, um, is so key, because then you have that moment to decide how you
mm,
want to move into the next moment, and what is it you want to say or do. um, a couple other tools I really enjoy are just having a morning practice, so to arrive to yourself. So for me, that's just doing some different stretches and different breath work techniques, and maybe a meditation if I can get my mind to chill before the day goes, but that's easier said than done. But just something like, a little space to yourself, if you have a pillow to just sit on
mm,
and arrive to yourself, put your hands on your heart, something like that. And then throughout the day, I quite like to wear maybe a crystal on my necklace or like a crystal
mm,
bracelet. So just having something that you can put your hands on that sort of
mm,
reminds you, to check in with yourself. Where are you at? How are you feeling? Are you in your body? Are you
mm,
aware of the moment? Um, and that comes back to, breath as well. Like, if you can remember to just check in with your breath, like, are you just like, can you take that, deep inhale to just be for a second? And then, yeah, your body, is your jaw clenched? Um, are your brows, narrow, or however you say that? Like, are your shoulders raised? Like, are you holding on to something? Are you bracing for something? Like, are you like active and for me anyway, like with the nervous system, like a little hyper vigilant, because there's so much energy going on around me. Can I check in with my body and relax it so that I can feel safe and grounded in the moment. And so overall, I think really just being aware of your body and mind will help you to live more consciously.
Wow. There's just so many little takeaways in there. One of the things I heard you say that I think is so important to wrap back around to is this space, allowing space in your life to be able to move to the next moment. That is so, so important, right? When we fill our time and our space with so much, how are we allowing ourselves to pause, to breathe, putting space between us and the next idea, the reaction, the evolution really of ourself? How can that happen if there is no space for that? That is so powerful. So powerful. I loved the morning practice. One of the things during the pandemic, when it started in 2020, was I work from home and my family moved home. So I had developed a very regular and ritualistic morning practice. And everything kind of got rocked for me after that. I had to realign what that looked like and the demands of my family. And then the house was noisy. And it really made me evaluate how I was going to show up. And it challenged what I knew about being quiet and finding a quiet space. And like you said, putting space between how I arrive into the next moment. And I'll be honest, it felt very suffocating for many months as we found our rhythm. But it helped me recalibrate as well. And that, I think, is what's important in any given moment, no matter what's happening, whether you're at home and it's quiet and you're in your space, or you're out at the grocery store, or moving through life, you have the moment to create that space between you and the next decision that you're making.
Absolutely. If you can create the space, it's not always easily given to you, but if there is a way, and sometimes that does mean literally like, I need a moment and removing yourself. Like it doesn't, it might disrupt the flow of the people around you.
Yes.
But and again, us sensitive folks don't necessarily want to do that because then we feel their disruption.
Right.
But what's it going to take? Like it does wonders to just take a few moments for yourself, for sure.
Yeah. And then finding a way to connect back into your body. I love that you wear a crystal. I also do the same, whether it's on my body or holding it. Finding something that you connect with that makes you remind you that you don't have to live in the ethers. You can come back and ground yourself in this moment and be connected to all that's happening right here and right now, even if it does feel really crazy and just tap dancing on your nerves or whatever might be happening. It is important in any moment to just continue to regroup and find that flow again.
Absolutely.
So often we don't come to living life consciously, or the natural life, the foods we choose, and really our health. We don't come there by choice, but we are open to it by life's direction. I know that's happened to me through either, health issues or our own intuitive guidance, or even just wanting something different because of the way we feel. What would be your guidance to someone who wants to start living this way?
Yeah, I think what I found, I'm not sure are you familiar with human design at all?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So I'm a 3/5, and a lot of how I'm able to, I suppose, I don't know if it's gain wisdom or really live wisdom is through trial and error, lived experience. So it does take bumping against a lot of edges for me, and maybe it's not quite the same for others, but what I would say to that is to really just take inventory of what areas of your life are working and what areas of your life feel off. And if there's, again, I think this kind of comes back to what we said at the beginning of being solution oriented. And perhaps, yeah, I mean, I can just share what's worked for me is I am a bit of a nerd and I like to find the solution or gain the knowledge that's going to help me move through X thing. So I've found, honestly, books and podcasts to be so helpful. Really just intending to, well, you said, how can people start living this way? Well, it starts with intention and being open to changes. So if something feels off, if you feel like you're not in your natural flow and rhythm and alignment, well, okay, you have that awareness. Now let's shift and be open and in that sort of receiving mode, I suppose, of the universe, maybe able to bring you the people and the resources that are going to help you to find your path. So like I said earlier, like this thing led to this thing, led to this thing. And it was often like a book, a podcast, a person, a resource, sometimes even like a free download. And then they referenced this person. So I just liked to explore. And I think sometimes you find something that works and sometimes you don't, and that's okay. But either way, you're going to learn something along the way. And, also, of course, that's very externally focused, like kind of seeking and reaching and being open to, a solution. But I do think that there is finding the balance of what resources are inside as well. So I definitely started with a lot of the external seeking, but then realizing like I can read as many books as I want, but how am I feeling? And so am I looking to fill a gap that's inside? And maybe that gap is actually an inner well that you have to like let fill up again, So I think there's a bit of both. Like there's so much resources and people, and we're social beings. There's so many things that can help you that just mirror back to you and reflect back to you and give you, information and things that can help you. But then also just checking in with how you feel. Like, are you grasping from a place of scarcity and emptiness, or are you, how can you balance that out? And I don't think that it ever ends, because like I still feel like there's so much I want to quote unquote improve in my life, but just finding that inner peace, even as a journey, is a great thing. And having gratitude for where you are, because maybe you are so much quote unquote farther along your journey than you realize. So just really having that gratitude for what is as well.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Beautiful. I mean, that when you look at, I think there's always a component of seeking in the journey. And a lot of it does come from seeking outside of yourself, whether that's books and podcasts. And I mean, that's how we learn. We're human beings. We crave information, whether we're getting that through books or podcasts or other people. But there's also just a really important balance in that you mentioned, that is making sure that you're reflecting about what that inner landscape looks like, and how really making sure the information aligns with what feels right on the inside, but then tapping into that intuitive guidance. And does it feel right? Is it going to improve? Is it going to help me move forward on my path? for somebody that might be listening to this that doesn't feel like they're very intuitive, when we say the word intuitive, they may go, well, I am really not that. How do I find that? How do I know what feeling intuitive is and tapping into that feeling that guides so many people? How do I make sure that that's what's happening for me?
That's such a good question. I come back to the body and our emotions, because the intellect is the mind, and information is it's mental, right? So when it comes to intuition, I would say that, I mean, in the body, you could say it's more instinct, I guess. Instinct would be like the body's intuition, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, just being able to sense, say, danger. That's kind of our primal
It is.
part of ourselves. That to me is kind of intuitive. It's not something that you think about. You feel sensations in your body, such as tense. A tense feeling, like if there was like a tornado coming or something, chances are your heart's going to start racing and your body's going to tense up because you're ready to run or to act. So checking in with your body in any situation, because it could be maybe a job that you're applying to, or you have a choice between two opportunities or something. See how your body feels when you kind of say, okay, I'm going to go for this one, and check in with how the body feels. Okay. And then, okay, no, I'm going to say yes to this opportunity. Check in with how your body feels. So that would be one thing. And then I also would say, yeah, the emotions. And I think this one's a little trickier perhaps. But it can definitely just take practice. Just being aware of how you feel emotionally. And that deep inner knowing can be tricky, when we're talking about, like, I think these are kind of layers of intuition. Maybe it's like, the body, the emotions, and then there's that deep seated yes, no. That one can play tricks on you, or it feels like it can play tricks on you. And sometimes you don't always feel like maybe you quote unquote got it right. Like, I thought I was paying attention to my intuition, but here I am. But either way, I think when it comes to following your intuition, you're not going to go down the wrong path, because you're going to learn something on that path anyway.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you can just be guided back. If you went down said path and you're like, I thought I trusted my intuition and things didn't work out, but what did you gain from the experience?
Right.
And seeing everything as, really, I guess, being a gain, not a loss.
Yeah. And it's important for people to recognize that we can get so caught up in, am I making the right decision? And, oh, did my intuition tell me it was the right decision or not? That if I make the wrong one, then my intuition was wrong. No, not necessarily. You're learning how to listen and hone and craft what is flowing through you to make sure you show up in a way that is authentic for you. This also comes back to when we talked about, are you existing or living your life? And when it is so noisy in your life, and their noise, not just physical noise, but the pattern of busyness that so many people get caught within, right? We're so busy. I'm so busy. I'm so busy. Or I'm traveling, or I have so many things on my calendar. It is hard to hear that voice. It is hard to discern what that voice is telling you. But you brought up the body, and our body will feel the messages. I think I heard at one point 30,000 times faster than what our mind senses. So your body's going to feel that first, the intuitive hit first. You have to find a way to integrate that and listen to that while also managing the busy and the reactive and everything. So I think it's a really It's a really powerful practice, coming back to the body, coming back to what the body is telling you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's yeah, the topic of embodiment, I guess, has really been
Mhm.
circulating, at least in my awareness, for a few years now, and it's so true. Like, there's so much wisdom in and around every cell of our being. So it's not just a hand that is a hand. There's so much there, like just the sensations. It's so beautiful to tune in to,
It-
yeah, to how your body feels.
yeah, and allowing yourself to flow into that rather than um, allowing being drug through the day, but really having intention through your day and
Mhm.
allowing the flow, that stream of consciousness, to help you arrive in each decision. So you have that space to open up to, and you have the chance. And really, as you learn to live this way, the messages come a lot faster. They're a lot clearer. You open up yourself to this space that you're like, it's like everyday, it's like an everyday wisdom that you've tapped into that feels natural and normal,
Mhm.
um, rather than, oh, what would my intuition tell me to do? It's instantaneous.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So in a world, let's transition here. In a world that really begs for your busyness, right? I mean, we are with social media and everything that is designed to keep us distracted and
Mhm.
busy. How have you changed the narrative in your life, and lived life on your terms, present, connected, and filled with purpose?
Mm. Well, I did mention this a little earlier, around 2020. My body told me first.
Mm.
um, the world slowed down, but my body did as well, and that sort of woke me up. I was fine. I was healthy more or less. I needed a lot of naps. I
Mm.
was like sleeping quite a lot, and I think it was um yeah, the first time I realized that how busy I was. So
Wow.
it definitely can take, at least for me, uh, a total shift in life to realize how busy and distracted I
Wow.
was. Um, so now, when I love lists. I love to do lists, and
I do
I,
too.
yeah, and I like being productive. I do. I like the
Mhm.
earthy things, um, but it really is important to rest. And I
Mm.
think in that rest, and again that spaciousness, this is how we can have more clarity around uh, how how we want to show up
Mm.
and where we want to move towards, and what feels fulfilling in the next moment or in the next chapter. So things that I do is, I love to go for walks, uh,
Mm.
just to move the energy and to be present, and walks outside, just being in nature, and closing the computer. I have very little notifications on my phone.
Mm.
Do not disturb, DND. Like, I use that quite a lot, because we have so many distractions and pings and dings.
Yes.
Actually, we just got new appliances, and all of them have like a ring, and like,
Oh.
every time you press a button, it's like ding ding ding, and then like, the oven is at the temperature, and it like dings, and the laundry's done and it dings. So we turned off all the dings. I'm like, no more
Yes.
distractions, no more pinging and dinging. So yeah, I think again it's similar to what I said earlier, just time to breathe, more
Mm.
quietness. Um I do work on the screen quite a bit, but if I have to do not disturb or just, if I feel it in my eyes, I wear these blue light glasses too.
Yes.
But if I feel it in my eyes, like just close the screen and just find ways to do less,
Yes.
and be more. And I think that's where the fulfillment and those things of ideas and clarity around purpose come in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. I also feel the dings and the chirps and the chimes to be so aggravating to my sensory processing. It is, aside from everything that wants our attention, it's just a small way to turn the noise down, right? Turn the noise down on your phone. Do you really need to be notified that the app wants you to do this?
Yeah.
Does the washing machine, do we really need to know that it's done? Our
Yeah.
attention will go back there, right?
Yeah.
Even down to how, like, if you wake up to an alarm, I don't, but my husband does. And it's like the type of alarm, like, could something maybe a little softer. Like I appreciate to wake up to something that's not like,
Yeah. Like the
that's like
bird chirping or the
yeah,
waves or
yes,
something. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's so much for my sensory system. And then I feel startled and jolted. And then I remember through the day, like, why am I reacting a certain way? So I think it's a powerful practice to get into chimes, and whether you have clocks in your house or really anything, doorbells and what's happening on your phone and all of those things that can just take things down a notch, right? Yeah. And just remember what's important. And then, like you were talking about the walks, returning to a space that is your natural flow state.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Really. Yeah. What I'm hearing too from our conversation is like it can start with the environment, like the environment in which you are in really can play a role, right? If there's too much distraction and buzzing and dinging and bells, like how can we have less in a world that keeps adding more,
Yes. Yes.
and I think that just removing bits out of our awareness that just got overloaded in the last 10-20 years
Yeah. Yeah,
is
you
important.
have a very intentional practice around that, and I think that's important. The do not disturb on your phone and closing the computer and finding time in your day. I also take walks, and it's so important for me to take the AirPods out, like really listen to the environment, right? Listen to what's happening, and finding a space to connect in the environment rather than tuning out. There's so much when I'm on my walk where I see people and their head is down and they're plugged in or they're talking on their phone, or which that works for them, but we're missing the point. We're missing the point if we're not. You don't have to say hi to me. That's not what I'm saying. just tuning into the natural space, tuning into what's going to fill that inner battery of yours.
100%.
Returning to our natural, most present state. Why do we have those practices in the morning? The breath work and the meditation and the things that return us to that. It's also when you move outside and finding that space in nature. So how does the natural world, I know you take walks and you move in nature frequently. How does it guide you? And what does that look like for you?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. Well, in terms of guidance, I mean, the message I always receive from nature, and I'm just looking at all the trees outside right now, is like where I live, we have 4 seasons that are pretty dramatic. And being able to witness the natural cycles and how every month is different. I just I observe. I really observe, and it's such a reminder.
Mm.
Also, the apparent chaos of a forest, right? It's not in straight lines. It's not groomed like, grass. Like it's messy, and
Yeah.
it's perfect. So I receive those messages and reminders from nature all the time,
Mm.
that things don't have to be perfect. There's a rhythm, and it is working. Um, and the presence and just stillness and groundedness of trees.
Mm.
And they just stand so sturdy and firm, and yes, the odd time they fall down, but most of the time
Mhm.
they're there year after year, and they're just always blooming the way flowers bloom. They're unapologetic about
Mm.
their being. So there's so many
Mm.
messages I receive from nature. I don't know if that's guidance, but it's
Mhm.
reminders that I see. And then when it comes to, I'm bringing the body back into this,
Mhm.
but if I'm craving certain foods, or I keep hearing on a podcast, or I see it on my Instagram feed or something, a certain herb, and it
Oh.
piques
Mhm.
my interest. I'm like, okay, those are some nutrients that I need. So I
Mm.
really focus on health and well-being first, and really feeling good in my body. And so really nourishing myself with good foods and herbs as needed. Um, and I think that feeling good, and for me anyway, feeling good and healthy allows for more clarity and vitality
Mm.
and life force to move through me. Like if I can eat, foods from my garden, it's so much more vibrant and alive than something I got at the grocery store. And I just
Mhm.
feel better. It's just a
Mm.
different experience. So yeah, really just being in it, like just fueling my body with really good foods and being in nature. And I find that that allows me to receive um, clearer guidance in general.
Mm.
So it's very tangible, I guess. But that has been my connection
Mm.
with the natural world, is just being in it and fueling from it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's very synchronous. The
Hmm.
the natural world informs, what it's very much as our ancestors have done, living from the land, right? When we live from the land and live seasonally from the land, we our bodies are given the things we need at the exact time. We're not eating berries all year round,
Hmm.
but we're being informed by what the land can give us now to fuel our body in a specific way and a nurturous way that gives us exactly what we need right now.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's just beautiful.
Absolutely. It's kind of magical, honestly. It's just yeah,
Yeah.
it's really, it is. The
Hmm.
way we are of the earth. I think it's
Yeah.
not so separate.
It's not. And when you live that way, it starts informing it, you feel it, you embody it. It
Hmm.
all becomes this synonymous
Hmm.
path that just flows beautifully.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I love that. I really love
Yeah.
that.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. So let's jump into kind of what we have in play astrologically
Mhm.
for the rest of the calendar year. And then if you feel so guided, what transits we should really be paying attention to in the next 6 to 12 months.
Hmm. Yeah, no, beautiful. I mean, yeah, at the time of this recording, we were just moving through a new moon in Virgo, and Mercury is now direct in Virgo. So, appreciating that this earthly conversation we're having. And, going forward, October is a pretty, I guess, hot month, so to speak. We have two eclipses. So we'll have a
Mm.
new moon solar eclipse in Libra on the 14th, and then a full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus on the 29th. And I think, I don't know if I said that right, new moon solar eclipse Libra, full moon lunar eclipse Taurus.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, and eclipse season, just it's kind of like extra full and new moons. Like
It is.
yeah. And depending on where these are in your chart, different people of course, experience them differently. I find it hilarious. Like this solar eclipse in Libra is in my first house of self, and
Oh.
it's around the time that my baby is expected to arrive in the world. So I'm like, yeah, I'm
Wow.
stepping into a new identity. That's very eclipsy. So that's just like an example of how these can manifest. But so if there's changes or big shifts happening in your life, or maybe big emotions you're experiencing in the coming month-ish, just you know let it be. Like there's nothing to fix. Just really allow these changes to happen. Often, yeah, eclipses really are about redirection,
Mhm.
and that's just fine. Sometimes that's not comfortable, and sometimes it's very welcomed. So we'll all experience that differently.
I have found that I was just going to pause for a second.
Sure.
The eclipses are the energy is very magnified. It's like, I would call it extra,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not necessarily extra in that things are dramatic, or it's just extra in whatever way wherever what's happening in your chart is happening. And it, like you said, taking a pause that you will too move through this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is in our first rodeo. We had eclipses earlier this year. We have typically, I think it's like in 2 sets of eclipse seasons every year, right? So
Mhm.
this is nothing new. But yeah, that's probably, October seems to be more exciting, I guess, in terms of what's coming up. And slowly but surely, I mean, a lot of the planets are retrograde right now, so they're starting to move direct. So I think just clarity and focus moving into 2024 is en route, which is nice.
Mhm.
And yeah, maybe just maybe because my friend just messaged me the other day. She's like, I feel like I'm questioning everything right now. I'm like, don't worry, just give it a few weeks. Like you'll have your answers, I'm sure. Like something will come up for you. And then we do end with Mercury retrograde again. So we're just coming out of a Mercury
Oh,
retrograde, but
wow.
we will have one at the end of the year, and it will be in Capricorn this time. So another Earth
Mm.
sign. So yeah, I mean let's just see how December goes, but just something to note. People do traveling and things like that
Yeah.
around the holidays in December. So just to be aware that we'll have a little retrograde action.
I would imagine for those Capricorns, that's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Those planners, right?
Oh, for sure. And yeah, my partner's a Virgo, and I'm like, he doesn't like pay attention so much to the planets, but I'm just like witnessing. I'm like, this has been a hard season for you. I'm
Right.
sorry. Like,
Right.
well, yeah. So Capricorns, yeah, it's just to be
Certainly.
aware of.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I'm happy to touch quickly on 2024.
Yep.
So I do I find I like to look ahead around, like August, September. I'm like curious, we know what's
Mhm.
coming. And there's a few things, I think even like 2023 to 2026 in general, there's a lot of big planets moving and big shifts. And I mean, of course we had 2018, 2020, all those wonderful years too, but there's a lot of there's a lot of movement happening in these couple of years. 2024, we'll have Jupiter moving into Gemini,
Mm.
and that happens in May. So but before that, because that's exciting, but in April, Jupiter and Uranus will be conjunct in Taurus. And this is like I just saw this the other day, so it's funny that we're talking about this because sometimes I'll literally like receive a date and I have to like
Oh,
look at it.
really?
Yeah, so I was seeing like 420 everywhere, and I was like, "What the heck's
Really?
420?" So I look, my Jupiter and Uranus conjunct in Taurus. Oh my god! So this is like, well, one, it could literally be like it could literally be an earthquake, like, or a
Oh,
volcanic eruption, because Uranus is very like break things apart, big bursts of energy or big shift, dramatic breakthrough, and Jupiter just expands that.
wow.
Um, but it could also be that like an investment that you made really pops off because
Oh.
Taurus also rules money and resources. This could also be just very manifesty energy. So I
Mm.
would say like leading up to 420 next year, there's some really like whatever practice you use to manifest, like there's so many you can do, but there's like some peak energy happening there. So Taurus is really about the physical world and
Mhm.
the tangible world and experiencing it. So these two planets coming together just amplify it. So there's some tangible experience I feel that we can all have or create for ourselves. So I'm kind of excited about that. And then so Jupiter will move into Gemini after that, which is very, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I mean, hey, there's nothing wrong with Gemini. It's wonderful energy, but I personally love the Taurus tangible energy, but Gemini is very mental, very airy, and I think that maybe there's a lot more information that we're processing. I think
Mm.
we're talking about already having too much information, so I'm like, I don't know how this will manifest yet, but it's that'll be a transit of just extra air, extra communication. And Jupiter is very what's the word I'm looking for? It's more of like a beneficial planet. Like it really provides opportunities and growth and luck. So it's not like anything bad is happening, but
Right.
it also does expand things. So
Mhm.
I don't know. That one's interesting. I think so. I can see a shift in energy happening about mid-year next year.
Hmm.
And then lastly, Pluto will be moving into Aquarius again. So it kind of popped into Aquarius this year,
Mhm.
retrograded back into Capricorn. It's going to go back into Aquarius on January 20th, retrograde back, I think mid-year, and then go back into Aquarius in November. So we're still playing with this Capricorn Aquarius
Mhm.
energy of Pluto. Um, so that I think we're still just kind of wrapping up the lessons of Pluto moving through Capricorn, which began in 2008. So just topics around power and government and
Mm.
control and all sorts of wonderful things. We're just wrapping up, I think, some of those lessons, but then we move into Aquarius, which is really about innovation and change and moving forward. So we're getting a little peak of that next year again.
So is that at the end of 2024? Are we staying there then for a while,
I
or do we
think so.
retrograde?
I'm
Yeah.
pretty
Mhm.
sure. I had to look it up, but I'm almost certain that's like like it'll be in Aquarius after that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Good. Lots of
So
great changes coming. I'm excited
yeah,
for,
interesting. There's
yeah,
always so much. There's always so
there is.
much happening.
Yeah. And if you want to see how this all plays out in your chart, certainly look up Kelsey and
Mm,
connect with her. It would be she's so talented and so gifted in this area. So
yeah.
I just think it's wonderful. It's wonderful. So
Mm,
thank you for that. Yeah, thank
yeah.
you.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I would like to end on we always have our guests give like a grounded guidance message for our community.
Mm,
I would love to know what your grounded guidance is.
mm. Thank you. Thank you for that invitation. The first words I sort of heard was nourish yourself
Mm.
and really take care of your physical vessel because um, it's for not everyone, but it's simple enough to do to really provide your body and your vessel with the nourishment, the rest, the nutrition, the self-care it deserves, because I feel like from that place we're able to receive more and feel more clear in life in general. So I would take care of yourself, nourish yourself.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So one quick thing, how can people find you, Kelsey?
My platform of choice typically is Instagram. So at Kelsey H. Ammon or dash Ammon. Goodness, I'd have to look.
Okay. We'll put it in the show
we'll
notes
link it.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that's typically where I'm connecting with people and sharing information.
Okay.
And links to my website are off of that. So
Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on the Grounded Guidance podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to our podcast and leaving a review. Your feedback helps us reach more curious minds like yours. Until next time, stay grounded, stay guided, and keep stretching your edges to think differently. Take care, my friends.